Hi folks, this is probably just going to be one that's going to be for shorts, but I abandoned my planned service today and thought, well, I wanted to get a bit of confidence in jacking this car up, because you can probably see unfortunately I'm on quite a sloped driveway. I think when I come to do the actual service I'm going to buy a set of ramps, because I just think it will be safer whilst underneath the car. I'm very, very wary of working completely underneath the car on a jack and axle stands in case anything topples over. I don't mind so much for doing brakes and stuff where I'm outside the immediate area if something should happen, but certainly directly underneath I think ramps is probably going to be the way to go, particularly as I'll probably be doing all the main servicing on this myself moving forwards. But I thought whilst I was here, rather than completely abandoning the afternoon, I'd just have a go at jacking it up. So I've used one of the 2 centre jacking points to bring it up, and then I've supported it on an axle stand just there. And what I'm going to do is I wanted to have a quick look, a closer look up there at the cat, because I've got a lot of rattly noises in this area, and I've got a horrible feeling that there's a split or something on there. So rather than getting completely under there myself and crawling around underneath the car, which I'm not too keen on the idea of, I am, for now, at least until I get a bit more confident with what I'm doing, I'm just going to do this. I just want to have a quick look up and see if I can see anything that might be rattling or causing me a problem. So yeah, this is just going to be a quick short. I think I probably will whip each wheel off today and have a good look around everything. But that'll probably be it for now, and I'll just take it easy. So there we go. So yeah, I've just added a little bit of lubrication up there. You're probably not going to be able to see, to be honest with you, on that steering joint. It's a hell of a lot easier to do, I think, on the cars with the D5 engines or in left-hand drive forms. I think there's just less in the way, but on right-hand drive cars with petrol engines that's very tricky to get to. So I've sprayed some lithium grease on there for now, and we'll see if that helps with the heavy steering. It's only really when it gets warm, it's alright when it's cold. So in terms of other discoveries I've made whilst having a look round, now I've got some pulsing under braking, and I was going to strip the brakes, but to be honest with you, they look absolutely fine. The inside of the disc is clean, the outside of the disc is clean. I've felt each wheel every time I've gone out for a drive, and none of them are getting particularly hot. So I'm probably not going to strip the brakes today, but if I do see a disc or pad that I don't like the look of, then I may strip it down and clean it. And I think out of all of them, the one that's most likely going to be an issue is that driver's side rear, because that I can hear a noise on when I do braking. So like I say, things I've discovered going around: fairly substantial oil leak at the bottom of the engine, which ties into PCB. My drive shaft rubber boots are looking a little bit perished, so they're probably going to be an issue eventually. The shockers, interestingly, aren't original, I've noticed. That's not a Volvo label on those, so it would appear that at some point this car has had a set of replacement shock absorbers. The springs don't look too bad. Top mount looks pretty knackered, and I have got some corrosion setting in on the inside of those strut towers. And if you remember in the intro video, I said that's one thing you don't want to ignore, so I will get that looked at some point as well. And then the last thing is the ball joint, which I did record some footage on my phone, which will probably be a bit clearer, but the cover for the ball joint is damaged, and you can see metal there, so it's going to need some ball joints doing. That is probably a job I will entrust to a garage, because it's not the easiest thing in the world to get those out of there, unfortunately. And the other thing as well is my anti-roll bar bushers are looking a little bit tired as well. I mean, these are all things you'd expect on a car of this mileage. And again, much is the same with the subframe mounts. In fact, if anything, I can actually see some witness marks on that, so it looks like there may even be some movement on that subframe mount, which is interesting. The drop links are quiet. They look like they're original ones as well, because they're Torx bits in the end. But the boots on those look okay, as far as I can tell. And I've noticed I've got a good eye on it at the moment, but looks like that inner wishbone bush is separated as well. I can't see any metal. Normally when I've looked at these before I've seen metal there, but I'm pretty certain that shouldn't look like that either, so that's something I'm going to have to consider. And then I think this front wishbone, I'll have to have a look at the rest and see if they all look the same. So all I'm going to do for now is put this all back together now, and then jack up the front on the other side, take a look at that, see if we notice anything else, and keep going from there. Oh, there was one last thing. So I've got a persistent 70-mile-an-hour wobble that a wheel balance doesn't seem to have cured. The other thing I am doing is sort of feeling the drive shafts to see how they feel. I've got a little bit of lateral play in that, which I don't know if is normal or not. I'm assuming it is, but otherwise there doesn't seem to be any significant sort of slack or movement in that. Oh, actually there might be there's a bit of movement actually on that inner joint there. You probably can't see that. Yeah, there is actually a bit of movement on that inner joint. I wonder if that's it. Could be. So it might well be that I need to look at drive shafts at some point as well. And again, this is not me having a moan, by the way. This is just all things that you have to deal with as cars age. Now, none of these things I'm pointing out at the moment are essential items that need to be dealt with straight away, although I do think that ball joint will fail at MOT. So you know, the brakes are fine, the key safety components are fine, and then for me it's just going to be a case of how far I take it in terms of sort of making changes and refreshing things. And I would really like this to drive as close as possible to when it was brand new. So again, depending on what I do with that thing and whether I free up any cash, then I may do the struts, the springs, you know, the whole job lot, and just make it a nice thing to drive. But anyway, that's enough of me waffling around on this side of the engine. I'll include a few stills in the video of sort of pictures of components I've mentioned as well, because like I say, I don't think they're going to show up all that brilliantly on the GoPro. And we'll get the wheel back on and we'll go and take a look at the other side. And the other thing I'm going to do whilst I've got each wheel off the car is I'm going to take the opportunity just to inspect the tyre completely, just in case there's anything, sort of any obvious splits or anything that I don't like the look of. But it's quite difficult to do that with one hand, so I'm going to put you down and then put this back on the car. Nope, I'd say this one's good. So yeah, the other thing I'm going to check basically is for any evidence of any play anywhere. Now that I've got the wheel back on, I have sort of tweaked the bolts up, but they're not sort of mega tight, but it's good enough. And then obviously I'll torque the wheel bolts down properly when it's on the ground. But I'm just checking sort of top to bottom for any concerning movement. I can't feel any. Side to see it, side. I can't feel any, so for me that means hopefully I've not got any wheel bearing problems or anything like that to deal with. Just being attacked by wasps. That's that drive shaft with play in. I've no idea if that's normal or not. If it is normal, let me know in the comments. But so yeah, all that's left to do now is get this one back down on the ground and then we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so I've got the wheel off this side, and again I'm only just having a quick check of things at the moment. I've had a quick look at the ball joint on this side, that looks okay. One thing I did notice, Again, I could be my imagination, but to my eye that trap rod or that inner tie rod looks bent. I don't think that's straight. Now it could be just how it's supposed to be, I don't know, but oh, that's no good. The dust boot on the inner trap rod's gone as well. So there we go. That's another fact that could actually be causing a bit of a knock on the feel of things. So okay, so that's going to need sorting. That boot's gone. So, yeah, that boot's gone. Can't see it all the way down in there, but let's try and have a look at that engine mount all the way back there. I think that looks alright. And the same sort of thing with the drive shafts, where the perishing is happening on the inner boot. One thing I did notice about this one, so this is the shorter of the two drive shafts, is there's no lateral play in that at all, and no side-to-side play either. You know, that drive shaft seems a lot more taut and tight than the one on the driver's side does. So that does make me wonder whether the other drive shaft is the cause of my 70 mile an hour vibration. So that's something I'm going to do a little bit of research on. And this strut looks like it's in slightly better, or the strut tail looks like it's in slightly better nick compared to the other side. I've noticed that. That's a very strange contact mark there. I don't think that could have come from the wheel. So I really don't know where that's rubbed. It's very, very odd. And wishbones as well. So this one, I think this side actually doesn't look too bad, I don't think, overall. I don't think that one's too bad. It certainly looks in better nick than the one on the driver's side. But yeah, I've just now spotted that cover. I think that needs sorting. I don't, like I say, maybe that's just how they are. I'll have to check that. It's my eye, it just looked bent. I'll have to look at some pictures of what they're supposed to look like. The other thing I'm looking at is, yeah, I think oh no, it's the same. So it looks like if it did have new struts at any point in its life, it looked like they must have done both. They didn't just do one. But that's interesting. I mean, I would probably still replace them. The one thing I'm not sure about, by the way, I do want to do discs and pads all round on this eventually, but I don't actually know how big these brakes are, and what I was expecting to see was a number on this that tells you how big they are, but none of these numbers, unfortunately, correspond to that. So we've got 329, I think. Yeah, 329, or is it 829? 829, there's another number there, 295, left hand side obviously, and I think that says ATE, so I think that's the manufacturer of the calipers for these. But I can't see anything that says what size discs they are, so yeah, I'm going to have to try and suss that out. But yeah, that side, nothing else to report, and like I say, the ball joint on this side seems fine, as do things like the... Oh, there might be a tiny bit of movement in that actually. Yeah, I think there is. There's a tiny little bit of movement in that. What does the dust caps look like on that? They're not too bad, so they must have been replaced at some point. So anyway, I'm going to put all this back together. I'll do a wheel shake test as well, because I forgot to do that again before taking the wheel off, which is clever. And then I'll move on to the next one. Yeah, so I have seen one thing on this wheel I'm not so keen on, and that's that bit there, where it's obviously been clobbered at some point. I might just see if I can get that straightened out. I've considered getting these wheels powder coated and just having something covering the centre anyway, rather than those trims. I don't know. We'll have to see. So next thing I'm going to do is do my tyre inspection like I did before, just make sure there's nothing else. Obviously I've had one screw / nail dealt with already when I first got the car, and then I'll put it back on. So I'm happy enough for that. Chuck this back on the car. can hear the internet now. You're doing it wrong, as Raymond Ray would say. Okay, do me a wobble test, because again, I forgot to do that. So, might have some play. Got some steering play there. That feels or sounds like inner, I think. Very slight. You can hear it more than feel it. And it's got the same back and forth play, so that could just be the gearbox. And up and down, nothing. It's nothing major though, just a bit of a clump there. Can't actually feel anything, I can only hear a noise there. I'll have to look back at the video and see if it's more obvious on the video maybe. Again, I mean, I know I've said that I wonder if that tie rod, that inner tie rod or inner steering joint's bent, but to be fair, I mean, it doesn't drive straight. It feels to me like it needs an alignment, but the wheel, the tyre wear is absolutely fine. So you'd have thought if that was bent, this would be a bit of a mess, and it's not at the moment. So, no, that feels all right to me. So yeah, I'll just get this lowered back down and then tighten the bolts up. Obviously we'll remove the axle stand first. This is the sort of thing I'd be freaking out on if this was a car with decent paint. I'd be going, no, I've just got my hands all over it. Not so much of a problem. Might do this. Oh, I'm flying low. I need to deal with that on video. Hopefully I've not exposed anything. If I have, I would have blurred it by now. Ah, give it back. Give it back. God damn it. I really need to get proper wheel. Okay, and I'm just having a look round now at the rear. Those bushes are quite common. I think they quite often need to be changed. I think they're called D bushes, or maybe it's, I don't know. You know, look at the state of them. I don't know if you can see them or not. Those anti-rabar bushes are not really in place anymore either. They've shrunk quite substantially. In fact, there's some bushes up at the top there, they're looking a bit tired too. I've got a very slight clonk from the back end I've not been able to trace, but I won't be at all surprised if it's just these drop links. The springs look alright, the shock absorbers look ancient, but at least they're not leaking. Although again, I'm probably going to do shocks all round. Okay, you probably can't see there, I might have to swap to the phone. Inner pad material looks alright there, and outer pad material looks fine as well. And these are probably coated discs that were put on. These actually look fairly recent. And I say, I've not heard any noise from this brake disc, so I don't think this one's the problem. I think it's going to be the one on the other side, which I'm saving till last. But yeah, again, I don't think there's much really to muck about with at this stage. Flexes and stuff look fine. One thing I did notice, I don't know if it's going to pick it up. I was surprised to see that much rust there. That was quite a shock. I need to have a closer look at that and just make sure that that's not going to become a major issue. It might just be surface rust, but I'm not used to seeing any rust on a P2, to be honest with you, so I'm going to find out where that is, and I might look to have this car rust treated, particularly if I do keep it long term, because I certainly don't want to suddenly find myself in a position with rust. But that's a surprise. I'm not used to seeing that kind of rust on a P2, and I certainly don't want to be in the position where I find out I've got holes under the body or anything. So I may well get all that brushed down and coated at some point in the not too distant, just to protect it, ideally before the winter. But yeah, one thing I forgot to do again, so I'll have to do it when I put everything back together, is do a wobble test. It's probably going to be more crucial on the other side where I can hear that noise under braking, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think overall things don't look so bad here. So there's nowhere near really as much to go bad on the back end of the car. And even though there's a fair few links and stuff on this, I think generally everything looks pretty solid. That box has seen better days as well. We always go on the top, so that's something else. That's interesting. And there's something supposed to be clipped in there. You'd have thought so, wouldn't you? Wonder if that means the fuel tank's been out at some point then. Maybe. But, right, might as well throw the wheel back on and then we can get to the other side. One thing I noticed, this wheel seems slightly different to all the others. It's got like this inner ridge on the inside, which I'm sure the others haven't got. So part of me is actually wondering whether this is this was originally the spare. It could well be, because I know when I did my other video and had a look around it, the wheel that was on the inside, the wheel that was in the boot of the car had clearly been on the car for a while. So anyway, I'm just going to finish checking the tyre over and then I'll throw this back on. That's interesting. Whoever did this last time didn't put the screws in for the rear drums. Let's see if I can get a couple of them. Rear drums, rear discs. It's too hot for this. Tighten up to drop it back down on the ground, so I'm just going to do a quick wiggle test. There's nothing there at all. Anything there is tyre movement. I think if there's any other movement at all. You might have heard me say on one of my videos that P2 handbrakes are crap, and this is one of the reasons. So the handbrake on this car is actually applied, but that's how they work applied. It's just rubbish, absolutely rubbish. Now, like I say, I always forget about it. The first time I come to do a hill start in a P2 and apply the brakes and it goes, I sort of panic. So again, it's not so bad when they're automatics, but when they're manuals, it's just... If I do the rear shoes and brakes on this, what I might actually do is retrofit a set of adjusters to see if I can take some of that movement out. I think some people have, I think I've seen other people do it, because I hate the handbrakes on these cars. They're never ever good enough. But anyway, I'm going to lower this down and then I'll go and have a look at the last side. And the last side I'm a little bit worried about for a couple of reasons. One of which is I think one of the wheel bolts isn't quite straight. So that could be interesting when we come to undo everything. But I'm going to jack this up a little bit, get that axle stand out, then torque all these wheel bolts up, and we're going to have a look at the last side. Right, so try and remember this time before I undo everything to do a wobble test. Nothing that way. Nothing that way, so that's good. They're quite squeaky, but the handbrake is on, so you would expect that. Now let's whip this off and have a look. That looks straight as well. Weird. I could have sworn one of the bolts that they showed me looked bent on this side. So yeah, this is the side where I've been sort of hearing like vibration and judder whilst braking. There's nothing screaming at me on the disc. Nor in terms of inner and outer pad wear. In fact, I'm probably going to have to. I think I'll have to go and grab the phone to do this bit of the video. I think. Yeah, I'll go and grab my phone. Yeah, so that's just the situation in terms of inner and outer pad wear. There seems to be plenty of meat on them. Like I say, this brake is noticeably noisy under braking. There does seem to be. Could just be as simple as a bit of run out, because I'm just looking at it there, and there's obviously some spotting on that disc, so I just wonder whether it's warped at some point. But like I say, I'm going to take a closer look at things, see if I can get this to bits. It should be straightforward enough, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, hopefully I don't regret it, but I have decided I'm going to have a quick look at these and see what sort of state this caliper is in specifically, because I want to see whether or not this will retract, and what the situation is with everything. Let's see whether or not these slider pins are moving. So I'm going to go and get the necessary tools, and then we'll start getting all this to bits. Where some wobblies would be handy. It's coming. There we go. Here we go. Right, I'm just going to go and grab a cable tie, because I want to be able to secure that so that it doesn't dangle. And again, because I'm not wearing one of his t-shirts, I'm going with Because Hubnut cable ties for this particular venture. Right, okay, so well, that's come off. Unclip that pad from there for a moment. Right, now crucial thing is just to make sure I don't balk the caliper up. I don't want to put a twist in that in any way, shape or form, basically. No pigtails on this watch. I'll tell you what I might do then. Unclip that ABS cable. It might just give me a little bit more flexibility. There we go. Well, that seems nice and free, and that seems nice and free. So to be honest with you, the only thing left to do really on that front at the moment, I might just clean these bits up now that I've had everything to bits. And the pads are moving around all right. I probably will compress this piston, I think, a bit, but generally everything looks all right. That piston looks quite pitted, so I've actually got a caliper wind back tool, so I'm just going to secure this so it can't escape, and then I'm going to go and grab my caliper wind back tool. It feels like that's as far back as it's going to go anyway. Right. Oh, you bugger. Ouch. Yeah, I'd say that's gone back, so that's good. Right. So yeah, I think all I'm going to do now is I'm going to give all these bits a little bit of a clean up, and then I've got some stuff specifically for various areas. So I've got some stuff for the pins and some stuff for the sliders. I'm kind of in two minds at the moment because I suspect I'm going to need to do a full brake job anyway. So I'm just wondering if it's actually worth greasing these bits up if I'm going to be ordering a set of discs and pads anyway. Oh well, I despise not doing things the right way, but unfortunately I cannot find my wire brushes anywhere at the moment, and as I know I'm more than likely going to have to come back here anyway, I'm literally just going to give these a quick scraping down just to knock off the worst of the muck, and then I am going to grease everything because I just can't abide by not doing things the right way. I have to do things the right way, or at least as close to the right way as I can get. What I'll do after this is I'll probably take the car for a quick test drive. I might do it later on this evening, just to make sure I'm happy that I haven't done anything that's adversely affected anything rather. And the other thing I'm going to do, again, because I just can't abide by not doing things quite the right way, I have got a little bit of product that I was going to use when I did the full brake job that I'm actually going to put on the just on this side for now, just as I put everything back together, because I can't, although I didn't find it with much sort of lube or anything anywhere, I don't think it's right necessarily just because I found it one way to put it back that way. So I'm going to use a bit of this. So just give it a bit of a, pick a nice gritty microfiber to do this job with. Probably ought to have a bit of a glove on, to be honest with you, as well. But they don't look too bad. There's no scoring or pitting on them, which is good. Now, like I say, I'm just going to lube these up and put them back in. I've got a rip in my glove now. That definitely makes me a professional. Not. So again, I'm just going to put a tiny bit of, a little bit of pit in there. Look. A little bit. A little bit more of a clean. Again, I'm not going to bother messing about breaking out the brake cleaner or anything like that at this stage, because this is all going to come apart again, I suspect, just to replace that disc. But, because I don't know exactly when that will be, it makes sense at this stage just to give everything a little bit of lubrication. There we go. Like I say, I'm sure I don't need to go too berserk with this. That's probably too much. So this is the clip grease. I think it is just literally a case of splooging 20,000 times way too much. I don't think you need very much of that at all. I have to apologise, by the way, I have no idea if any of these angles are any good. I didn't actually plan to get as far as taking the brakes to bits today, so this is a whole step extra, more than I had originally intended, to be honest with you. Tight as I'm getting that. Right, it's shorter hex for this one. I'm glad I bought 2 length hexes now, because I've got to say It does make life a little bit easier. I think the short one would have been a colossal pain in the bum otherwise. I think that is pretty much that back together, and like I say, that's moving around at the moment because I haven't yet pressed my brake pad or my brake pedal, which I might actually do in a second. So the last thing is to try and put this clip back on, something I can remember how the feck it went. Something like this, I think. Yeah, I'm not convinced by that at all. I might just pop it off and have a quick look at the picture I took. Alright, so I think that's together well enough. Alright, that's sitting where it needs to. It certainly seems to match the picture I took anyway, that's the main thing. That's one tip I'd give you if you're ever doing a job like this, is take an image of what things look like if you're not sure, and it can just make your life easier later on down the line if you're putting something back together and you don't think it looks right. But yeah, I think that looks spot on to me, or at least it's certainly how I found it. Whether that's right or not, of course, is a different matter. But so yeah, there's nothing left to do now basically other than chuck the wheel back on, and then I'll do a quick summary. Right. So there we go, it's all back together, and now I'm just going to check that tyre and then throw the wheel back on, and I am done for today. So in the time it would probably take most people to do a full brake job on a car, all I've done is jack all four corners and look at one set of brakes. So yay for mechanical incompetence, eh? But the whole point of doing this today was just to get a bit of confidence with jacking the car up and being happy that I can work on it on this driveway, which is something I was very wary of. Having done this, I'm a lot more confident now about the idea of ordering a set of discs and pads and doing the job myself. The one thing is, of course, is at the moment I'm using the handbrake, whereas it'll be on the park on the gearbox when I come to do this, because I'll have to release the rear shoes to do the discs. But we'll cross that particular fun and games when we come to it. So anyway, I'm rambling now. Just going to check the other tyre and then throw everything back on. Here I've already torqued them to kin tight. There we go, that's good enough for me. Probably tighter than that, but that's fine. Right. Put put the wonkiest of the wheel trims back on. This one's proper scabby, and I think one day we'll eventually make a bid for freedom. So I might see if I can repair these for now and respray them, but I'm not optimistic, to be honest with you. I may have to, if I stick with Steelies, I'll have to plump for another pair, or another set rather. Right, aligned. Okay, we're on and we're in business. So last thing to do, I'm going to do a full tool check around the car, make sure I've not left anything, pump the brakes a couple of times, and then I'm going to take it for a quick spin and just make sure that I've not broken anything, and fingers crossed I haven't. So I had one surprise when I started the car up, which is I got an anti-skid message warning, so I'm hoping that's not a not anything I've caused by what I've been doing, because that would not be good. But, hopefully not. My hands are filthy, but it doesn't matter, because there's plenty I need to do with this car anyway in terms of the interior. Right, whack her into reverse. So I'm still on a brick on the front, so I just want to load up that. There we go. Just make sure that the brake pedal actually works, which it seems to, so that's good. And the world's worst parking sensors. 2 bloody buses. Of course, now I've decided to do this bit of road's like the bloody M25, isn't it? Because it would be. Just one of the reasons I'm not too keen on backing off the drive. Right. Well, I've still got brakes, so consider that to be a good start. And then, like I say, we're going to have a listen to this rear brake. I'm just going to take it basically up and down the A38 and see whether or not it's made any difference. I'm really not expecting this to have made any difference to that drumming, rumbling I heard. It's just really more a do this to eliminate it, you know, simple process of elimination. But like I say, looking at all the other discs, I'm pretty confident that all the calipers are working reasonably well enough. So I don't think I've got any issues with the existing calipers, so I think I probably am going to be fine just to go ahead and put some discs and pads on this when the time comes. It's, like I say, isn't quite yet, but it will be before long. Come on, Beamer. Well, it's definitely not made any difference to that brake noise, because I've just touched the brake pedal there. So that rear brake is well, that rear disc rather is definitely distorted, so it's going to have to be replaced. And if I'm going to do that, I'll probably slap a full set on. I might do the rears first and then do the fronts after, I don't know. Yeah, definitely needs looking at. I have to say the brakes do feel a little bit more positive, curiously, having done that. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this nonsense of me jacking up a car and looking at things and going, oh, what do I do next? Please do consider subscribing before you go. I promise these videos will eventually become a little bit more structured. And I'll see you in another one. Cheerio! A little bit of manual mode driving. So at 40 this box can be quite indecisive. I know, the irony. And I just prefer it stayed in a gear rather than... It's almost like it's sort of half torque converter locking between fourth and fifth all the time. It's quite annoying, so which is probably not doing much for the longevity of the box either. And again, it's like areas like this, I'd sooner drive in third, so I've got a little bit more engine braking, a little bit more control, and I can be heard as well approaching. Yes, there's not lock up there. Now there's lock up. Yeah, you get lock up at about 35-40 miles an hour. Again, and not quite got lock up there, look. Might have lock up now, maybe. Lock up now? Yeah, I've got lock up now.